You just look for the giant horse or browse the full inventory at nelsonroyals.com.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
All Things Saine with Representative Jason Saine. And good morning. You're listening to All Things Saine here on WSIC. I'm your host, State Representative Jason Saine. Great to be with you on another Wednesday, or if you're joining us via the podcast at your leisure, glad that you're listening. So appreciate that. Got a big show today. We got my good friend, former State Senator Jeff Tarte, who is running for auditor. I guess you want to check the books and see what's happening. So welcome to the show, sir.
I appreciate it, Jason, as always.
Yeah, no, glad to have you on. I was telling my wife this morning, Catherine, when we were doing the the breakfast and everybody out the door thing. She said, "Who's on your show today?" I said, "Jeff Tarte." She says, "Well, God, I bet you guys won't have anything to talk about."
Well, we need a campfire in front of us like we do when we set out in the backyard.
And a couple bourbons, and yeah, it'd be very nice. I don't know that it's not allowed because I'm an adult. I just think it's frowned upon when you go on air. It's just a bad idea.
Well, we can talk about them, compare them.
Well, that's true. We can. No, great to have you on. It's been a hot minute since we've seen each other, but yeah, obviously you've been busy. You've considered the opportunity to run for auditor. That's on the ballot this year. I know there's a number of folks who are running in the primary, so you'll need to get through that, and then on to the general election if everything goes your way. But you're a well-known commodity. You were around in the Senate and know a lot of folks across the state, so I'm sure you're hitting the ground.
At least three. I know three people for sure.
Well, that matters. Well, I've seen some candidates file, and I wonder if they know three people. So you may be way ahead of some others, but it is a crowded primary. How many folks are running in that race?
6 of us.
6, okay.
And yeah, it's a interesting group of backgrounds of folks. And, at some point we can get into a little bit the reason I've decided to run. And it was kind of not necessarily the absolute last minute, but it's late in the process.
Sure. Well, now we can talk about it, talk about other things too, talk about what you do. Still very involved in state politics and state policy, for that matter. You and I used to co-chair the IT Oversight Committee together and work on a number of other things together at the legislature. And I know you've been instrumental in what we've been trying to craft as an oversight board, looking at how we spend money on IT across the state, which obviously I won't nerd everyone out that's listening, but it's something that for those that care, we do care and want to see our state succeed. So you've been a part of that. What the name of that board is? The
IT Strategy Board. It's sort of like the NCDOT board or some of the other state boards that govern different aspects of different agencies in the state. So the IT Strategy Board is a group of appointed and officials and then staff that work through DIT, the Department of Information Technology. I'm the vice chair of the committee, and I actually, one of the sub-chairs, I was the chair for the cybersecurity statewide activity, which is a fascinating group to be involved in.
I'm sure that it is, given the challenges that we have every day and more on the horizon. It is, yeah, you've heard me say it before, technology in government's like trying to train a BB gun on a moving jet. It's very hard to do, especially when you're moving at the speed of government. So it's not without its challenges.
And we take a lot of pot shots at it with the BB gun, but they tend to bounce off and nobody pays attention that
They
we're
do,
shooting.
and you might
at
lose
it.
an eye. Well,
that's why I wear my glasses.
That's
when we're
right.
shooting in safety gear.
Little safety. That's right. No, it's we'll explore a lot of that. We've got you, I think, for the whole hour if we can keep you. Lots going on and really just getting ramped up at the legislature. Nothing's moving quickly. I know tomorrow there's an HOA committee, special committee from the legislature that somehow I guess I made the speaker mad. He put me on that. I'm former president of our HOA and former secretary of the board and treasurer of the board. So I've lived it, breathed it. Those politics are harder than what you and I do.
HOAs are one of the most political groups. The only group in the state that I think is more politically bound is churches.
Yeah, you're right.
But HOAs have a fascinating level of authority and power in the state. Actually, they have the ability to take your property, foreclose. Municipalities can't do that.
Right.
They put liens on your property from fines you're not paying to the HOA, and add fines not when you're not current with your dues into your HOA. It's quite a hot topic.
Well, it is, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that. Frank Eiler from down at the beach is one of the chairs, and I think he's scheduled this first meeting. I won't be there, but I'll be watching. I've got to be out of town. I'll be in South Carolina, but it's broadcast on YouTube, and for everyone that just can't find good TV.
Well, and knowing Frank, that's a good person to have chairing it.
Yeah, he's very level-headed, and well, we'll do a good job. And I think we're going to hear from folks across the state. And of course, I've seen it from both sides. From all sides, I guess, as a homeowner, as a member of the board, and then as a legislator that's kind of overseeing what we might do. It'll be an interesting, fascinating topic. But for those who care,
never dull.
Never dull. Well, you've been out for a while. Have you and Nancy had a chance to, enjoy retirement, or have you just stayed as busy as ever?
Well, Nancy's still working, and I encourage her to keep doing that. She's a local pediatrician, been with Atrium for 30 plus years and works at Davidson Clinic. She's at a point now she's seeing new babies that were babies of mothers when she saw the mothers that were babies.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But I serve on a lot of boards, volunteer and some paid boards. A lot happen to be healthcare related or IT related that I do. I do some consulting work that's government affairs related, where somebody's working on a legislative issue, a municipal local ordinance. I'm the current now chamber, Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce chair.
Right.
So we just started that activity. So, keep the fingers busy.
Keep you busy. Yeah. No, that's good. I joke. I kind of watch you and where you go and what you're doing either through social media or when we talk, but really no rest. You're kind of like me. You don't stay still very long.
No, and the decision and the state auditor is kind of fascinating because, as you know, different chairs. I also chaired this state and local government committee when I was in the Senate, and they have oversight responsibility for the Office of State Auditor. So I worked very closely for a long time with who was or now the past state auditor. Did a lot of work around that, so I find it fascinating. I got approached probably about a year ago, asked to run by a group, and I said no, because I wasn't going to primary a person who's a 4-term elected official who's actually pretty much loved by the other side of the aisle as well. I mean, she's very well respected for her work. And then things happened, and the seat became open. And then another group of people came and said, you need to run. Actually, the state auditor at the time said she would support me in my race and when we get where we need to get to, if we do.
Sure.
And here's the fascinating thing. When I ran for mayor, I was 3-term mayor of Cornelius. When I ran and announced I was going to run, my wife was out of town with the Girl Scouts. Mm-hmm. When I ran for Senate, she was out of the country with the Girl Scouts. And when this came up about state auditor, we discussed it. She heard about it first, said, this is exactly what you do for a living. You need to do this.
Right. Well,
that was
wonderful.
Shock.
Yeah. Well, having support at home matters a lot.
It does.
It does. Well, that's great. We'll talk more about that too, and get into. We'll talk about the holidays. We're not that far out of it. Hopefully the family got to be together.
Indeed.
Avoided the sickness. I know we've had a lot of that across the state. But you're listening to All Things Saine here on WSIC. My guest today is former State Senator Jeff Tarte, and he is running for state auditor. We'll talk more with him after the break. We really appreciate you listening, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Keep it right here. All Things Saine with NC Representative Jason Saine will return after this short break on the new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
We'll get ready for a busy weather day for our Tuesday. A lot of rain and a lot of wind on the way. Rain will be an all-day thing, really picking up some of it heavy or even torrential by the afternoon and evening, which could cause some flooding in spots. Winds will pick up, gusting upwards of 40 miles per hour or more by the afternoon and evening, too. That may cause a few downed trees or even power outages across the area. And while it's low, would you still need to keep an eye out for a couple of strong or even severe storms tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Rocky Lynn is playing at Kane Center for the Arts Saturday, January 20th. Having performed all over the world, written hit songs, and mentored artists, Rocky Lynn is making another stop here at home. Rocky Lynn, Saturday, January 20th, kanearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Quilters and Knitters Unite! The Quilting and Needle Art Extravaganza is happening this month at the Statesville Civic Center, Friday, January 26th and 27th. Admission is $5. Come explore the many beautiful fabrics, styles, and maybe even buy a new sewing machine. The Quilting and Needle Art Extravaganza at Statesville Civic Center on January 26th and 27th. Birkdale on Ice is still going on through January 28th. Time to lace up your skates and hit the ice. To make sure you can skate when you want, we recommend you making a reservation. For skate session info, including times and pricing, visit birkdalevillage.com. Mooresville Parks and Recreation presents The Hitmen of Country, playing at the Charles Mack Simpson Center Friday, January 19th. Love country music? The Hitmen of Country have toured and recorded with some of the country's greatest artists, like Keith Urban, Trace Adkins, Travis Tritt, and Jason Aldean. For more information, go to visitmooresville.com. That's visitmooresville.com. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
76 years strong, and we're still the one. WSIC. News. Talk. Now.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
All Things Saine. Representative Jason Saine.
We've got fun and games. We got everything you want, honey. We know the names. We are the people.
And welcome back to All Things Saine. You are listening to All Things Saine with Representative Jason Saine. And got with me in the studio today, former state senator Jeff Tarte, who's running for auditor. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to have you on. You're not suffering any flu-like symptoms or anything like that?
No, fortunately not. Went through that. My brother actually in the first round of COVID was actually in the ICU for an intensive care, literally for 7 days, almost died. I had it first time maybe 8 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know I had it.
Yeah, well, that's so far, fingers crossed. For me, that's the way COVID's kind of, the time that I knew I had it and that I got tested, otherwise, if I feel bad, I don't go around people. That's kind of been a policy of mine for a long time. Wish other people did it, but my symptoms were mild. My mom and dad had it in late November, and then just right before Christmas, my mom ended up in the hospital. She ended up with double pneumonia because she never really got over it, didn't rest enough. But COVID and the flu and RSV in North Carolina throughout much of the Southeast are very high, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. More than 22% of patients visiting an emergency department during the week of Christmas had respiratory virus symptoms, according to the state health department. So I say all that to say is if you're listening and you're home sick, hope you get better, and hope you're not getting the worst part of it. But
well, I can verify and vouch for those statistics in a kind of roundabout way. As I mentioned earlier, my wife's a pediatrician, so she's seeing piles of it. My daughter is actually a pediatric emergency medicine physician, so she works in a pediatric emergency room, and they're seeing tons of it.
Wow. Well, they must be, because people I've talked to on the phone sound, like they're going through something respiratory. Knock on wood, we've been good at my house and not had it, but and Kat and I both are pretty, we're not impenetrable, but we're pretty resilient. But once it gets on you, it's hard to shake it.
It is.
Well, That's not what you're here to talk about. We're talking about you running for state auditor.
Well, my favorite topic.
Hey, why not? It should be. I wonder about people that run for office and don't talk about what they're running for. Maybe you shouldn't be running. Like some people that are on the ballot. I got a text from Stephen Wiley, who's our caucus director. You know Stephen from working in my office.
He's my son-in-law's best friend.
Yeah.
Ironically.
Yeah, which is awesome. And he's at a hearing right now for someone who filed for office. Who has a string of felonies, and of course didn't report that, which you are legally bound to do when you file for office. So no felonies, you're good.
Not
to go.
me, but I think there's one of the candidates that has a background. But
interesting.
We'll leave that to folks to do their homework.
Those who should be looking into that should be looking into that.
Actually, it's an interesting race with the six of us. I've actually encouraged, which I didn't used to do, being past mayor, past senator, running lots of times. Is I encourage everybody to go out and look at everybody's website and do some homework on this race.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I'm biased. Now, if you can't figure out the difference on quals, I think we just do it because I'm pretty sure I'm the best looking candidate. So we could do it purely on looks.
You're just the eye candy of the race, really.
Exactly.
I got it. And that's why I'm on radio.
I understand. Well, and the reason I ran is this is what I did for a living. I mean, I'm serving in the Senate gave me insight into how the budget and interactions work, how the Office of State Auditor works, doing lots of work together. I was a partner at Ernst & Young, so I spent nearly 30 years doing that as a business. And nobody else that's in the race has the background. And that's why a group of people basically came to me and asked me to run. So we would have somebody with a professional background, does this, knows the work, and can oversee a staff of over 175 professionals with a $16 million operating budget.
Yeah, huge operating budget, but more importantly, the role that the auditor plays, is keeping a check on everything that where the state spends money, and it just because we might pass a law and send money to a department, an agency, or what towns are doing or what counties are doing. Without oversight, that money could get abused very quickly, and that's the role of the auditors to find out what's going on with the dollars.
It's a ironic thing because nobody runs to the polls going, "God, I got to vote for state auditor." I don't really care about any of the other races,
right?
But auditors' primary roles are to perform audits, which is not in the sense that you think of from an accounting firm. They're not doing the full, detailed, independent financial audits. They do a lot of operational work, and they do investigative work, reviews, and compliance. So are the monies being spent where they're supposed to? That's really an important aspect. And then investigating fraud and waste. I can tell you because working through DIT and my involvement in the Senate and work with the state auditor, I can tell you day one, I will go after there's over $100 million of fraud that's been perpetrated in the Medicaid system. We have the same issue with the PPP loans. The PPP loans, GAO reported out of DC that over 17% of the loans are fraudulent. So they're companies that didn't exist that filed and got payments.
Yep.
We know how to go chase that. We know where there's over $40 million annually wasted in our utility bills. Pretty easy, and we own and manage over 12,000 buildings in the state. And then you look at things like the legislature asked the state auditor to look at the truancy issues within the schools. Who would have thought that's a responsibility of the state auditor's office? So there's a lot of related things. When I was right before I left the Senate, I requested the strategic information systems plans of all the state agencies, over 30, and struggled because nobody wanted to share. And then I got a group of other senators and the state auditor, which gave us the juice to collect that information. And then we started identifying replication, simple things where we had the same project being done in two different departments and funded separately and paying for basically the same thing twice.
Yeah.
I know by looking at contracts and things, there's versions of software that we pay for multiple times, which we should only pay for once, right, by the state contracts. There's probably 150 to 200 million day one to go clean up. And then the key is, because of my background being IT, is to introduce, which we're all talking about today, artificial intelligence, AI. So I want to add AI engineers, want to do data analytics, doing predictive analytics, and we can go get the fraud that's out there that we can identify and then put tools in place that will provide oversight to prevent those instances from occurring again.
Well, right, just like we do with your credit card, Catherine just suffered this last week. She wasn't at Bed Bath & Beyond. They realized that, flagged a charge that was trying to go through on her card, of course denied it. Somehow her number had leaked, and of course she took the action that she needed to take. We're none the worse for it, other than having to wait 2 days for a replacement card, and she had a virtual number. Didn't matter, right? But the reality is that could happen in state government. It just doesn't happen right now.
Right, and you got to have somebody that has a background doing that professionally. And again, that's what I did partially for a living. I'm a former CIO at two organizations, New England Medical Center in Boston. I was at Johns Hopkins Health System CIO for a while as a consulting job, interim while we did a national search for a full-time replacement. But having those backgrounds, CIO magazine, Chief Information Officer magazine, I was 1 year the top 100 CIOs in the nation.
Well, and which, to your credit, is really what the job calls for. Someone who is, to your point, you were saying it's not what you would think of as a traditional auditor or necessarily even a CPA for that matter. Those positions are certainly complementary to the job, but the reality is it's really a lot of data management. It is getting the right data. Making sure you've got the right data, then being able to process that data, and then make informed decisions based on the data, which is part of what the auditor's function is as a legislator, to come back and say, here's what's happening, here's where you need to make decision points to either fix it or don't fix it, but at least now you've got good information.
And that's why, it's a host of skills that really make the position, extremely successful if you can bring it all to bear. You still need to be able to interpret and understand financial data. You have to be able to read and understand financial reports. You need to be able to do the comparative analytics that look at data to see where the anomalies exist and can point you in the right direction to find where fraud may be occurring, just errors going on that people don't realize, or duplication and replication of the exact same things like we talked about earlier. And that comes around from do lots of M&A work for clients still currently. So bringing organizations and books together. I'll give you one example where we have a very simple cure to a very difficult problem is we can't determine the total IT spend across all the state agencies.
Right.
My work, I'm guessing it's about $2.6 billion of the $33 billion state budget on some preliminary review. But we have separate fund codes, FUND, not like fund raising like the Fun Donuts or...
Right. We put the fund back in fund.
I keep always going to Krispy Kreme donuts. They're my favorite. But anyway, fund codes are used in your general ledger in your chart of accounts that you capture and report where expenditures are, oversimplified. Every agency for the IT area has their own set of fund codes. We need a uniform single set so we can consolidate and look at spend. So we have a group purchasing contract for PCs across the state, but everybody's off doing their own thing, and they're not taking advantage of the discounts. And we don't even know what we're spending in those areas. We can't leverage and negotiate better rates. Those are things that I can bring to the department that's never been brought before. And I'm pretty confident there's none of the other six that can do this either.
Well, and that's part about why you're running and why folks are in the race is to compare, contrast, figure out what people bring to the table and what they don't bring to the table and who's going to be best for that. Bottom line is that work matters most to the taxpayer. If you're spending $1, I don't mind helping to support state government. We need functions like healthcare, roads, and education, name it. But I'd at least like to know as a taxpayer that my dollar's being spent wisely and that it's not being wasted. We're talking with Jeff Tarte. He's running for state auditor here in North Carolina. As a former state senator, a good friend of mine. We'll be back after the break, talk more about his race for state auditor.
There's more All Things Saine with NC Representative Jason Saine on the way from the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, get ready for a busy weather day for our Tuesday. A lot of rain and a lot of wind on the way. Rain will be an all-day thing, really picking up some of it heavy or even torrential by the afternoon and evening, which could cause some flooding in spots. Winds will pick up, gusting upwards of 40 miles per hour or more by the afternoon and evening, too. That may cause a few downed trees or even power outages across the area. And while it's low, we just still need to keep an eye out for a couple of strong or even severe storms tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Thinking of a truck? Think Sierra, a GMC Sierra, and Black Automotive is where you find it. No matter where you're heading or what task you're tackling, there's a premium capable Sierra 1500 that's perfect for you. Now you can take $7,000 off the Sierra 1500 crew cab models with a 5.3 motor, or you can take 1.9% interest for 36 months. Take the 2023 GMC Terrain for a test drive and just see what you're missing. It's a wonderful SUV, and you'll love this one. Now take $4,000 off the 2023 GMC Terrain or your choice of 1.9% interest for 36 months. Choose the 2023 Canyon Elevation, $2,000 off. And if a pre-owned is more in your budget, see the mile-long inventory of trucks and cars. See Black Automotive, the Greater Car Trader, home of Buick, GMC, Dodge, Jeep, Dodge Ram, and so much more. Iredell County's most preferred dealer, Black Automotive, Salisbury Road, Statesville, just off I-77.
Fernhill Baptist Church is a traditional, fundamental congregation located in Troutman. Hear them Sunday mornings at 8:15 here on WSIC. Listen on demand, WSICFM.com.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Call now to speak with NC Representative Jason Saine at 844-STUDIO-4. It's All Things Saine on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
All Things Saine with Representative Jason Saine.
Get our boogie on.
See, you got to get your hype music up. I'm telling you, every committee, every time someone speaks on the floor, I want, at least in the House, since it's far too reserved for something like this. But I would love if when you press your button and the speaker goes to recognize you, your hype music comes on.
I like it.
Right? Patricia Coughlin and I used to play this game, and we sat beside each other on the floor for a number of years, and so we would guess what the walk-up song would be for the member that getting ready to speak. And as you know, there are those that speak a lot, and sometimes not that many people are listening when they speak, but they do tend to speak a lot. And so you have more fun with those folks trying to pick out their walk-up song. If you had a walk-up song, though, what would it be?
Oh, geez, I have no clue. Right now, I'd like to be He Is the Champion.
Would work.
Now, you talk about, I'm going to give you one inside baseball difference. You may know this, that you've been in the House long enough. Difference for our listening audience, the difference between the House and the Senate. As you said, we're a little more staid on the Senate side of the chamber. But I remember one of my early times going in from caucus onto the floor. And as I walked past, heard this two sergeants of arms at the door go, and we had a pretty significant bill to vote on. And they go, I wonder how this vote's going to turn out. And I wanted to turn to him and the two and say, I can tell you what the vote is already. Because in the Senate side, we did not debate issues literally on the floor. They were debated in caucus. We decided we'd whip the vote, knew what the vote was going to be, and whether we were going to run it and hear it on the floor. Now, the House, I know sometimes that's not quite the case.
Every now and then it's not quite as certain, right? Well, it turns out if you talk long enough, you're going to, some people talk and lose support the more they talk, right? And so you do get a few questionable votes here and there, or close ones.
That reminds me of an old story. My first job out of college was working for IBM, and we did sales training and then into system engineering training. But on the sales side, we did role playing, and one of the things was talking the customer out of the sale. So you would have it sold, the customer in the role play would be reaching to sign the contract, and you just get babbling on, and he'd put the pen back in his pocket and say, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so many politicians talk themselves out of votes. Sometimes it doesn't have to be said. And so we see that a lot on the House floor.
So if everybody will agree to vote for me on March 5th, we'll just stop right now.
We'll shut up right now. Well, it doesn't exactly work that way. You've got really a marathon between now and March 4th. It's quick. It's a presidential election year, so the time's shortened as far as the primary goes. So you really have a short amount of time to go out and make your case across the state. Sure. And to your point, most folks aren't sitting there wondering this morning when they woke up, oh gosh, I wonder who's going to be my next state auditor. So you've really got a challenge on one of those, kind of down ballot races that people aren't paying a lot of attention to. How do you separate yourself out from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, it's hard because nobody goes and compares resumes, but it really is. If in a selfless plug, if you would go to Jeff Tarte, Tarte, jefftarte.com, that is my webpage. It's got all my background, all my experiences. And if you do that for every candidate, I am obviously significantly biased, but it's not close. The other 6 combined do not have my experience to do this. Great people, good guys, be fun to be around, but they're not prepared to run the office. That said, I know we got a little bit of time. We should kind of talk about the other races. I mean, there is going to be some fascinating races that have a lot of attention. Attorney General, I think, will be the biggest race to watch. Governor is going to be huge on both primaries because there's a boatload of people that we both know, a lot of these folks running in those races, let alone the rest of the down ballot races.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, it will, get ready, folks, because your mailboxes are about to be invaded, as are the airwaves and everything else. You won't be able to, watch, make a move without knowing that there's at least certain races that are up on the ballot. That governor's race will be huge. The primary will I think will be interesting because you've got the current lieutenant governor. This is talking about our side of things on the Republican side. Current lieutenant governor who's running. You've got Dale Folwell, who's been a long-time fixture in state government,
super successful
state treasurer running. Bill Graham, who's running, who's got personal wealth and who's been in and around politics for a long time as well in North Carolina. That'll be an interesting primary.
The other side of the aisle is interesting because Josh Stein's been running for 2 years, very capable, good guy.
Yeah.
Progressive. And then Mike Morgan, Supreme Court Justice, resigns to run against Josh. Why? I don't know. He's got a great job, and I think he's got a difficult road to beat Josh.
I think so too. That was kind of a head scratcher, and I don't know him personally. I know Josh personally, but everybody says he's a nice guy, capable, and so forth. So we'll see.
Well, and it's like I've always said, people say, well, you need to discourage so-and-so from running against you. No, anybody that wants to run should throw their hat in. More power to them. And that's what the process is all about.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. There's people who are doing it, who are current incumbents who are doing a good job. But if you got something else to offer, sure, put it out there. You've got that race. You've got the AG's race. Jeff Jackson, who is a TikTok extraordinaire, congressman right now, used to be in the state Senate. Did you overlap with him?
He sat behind me, actually, and we got some good stories. Jeff is, I'm actually good friends with most of the people on both sides of the aisle. Jeff, actually on the media, I posted something on Facebook probably a year ago that people need to pay attention to how he navigates social media because he's literally an expert at it. Now, our policies don't agree, but that doesn't mean you can't be personal friends.
Well, that's right. I always find it, sometimes you get criticism for saying, I said that person was a nice person. Didn't say I agreed with anything they're supporting. Right.
Well, and Josh will pick on me. I talk to Stein probably once every 3 or 4 weeks, and we've helped people on different issues because of the role he's in, not because of his party. But I tell people all the time with Josh, I would like, through osmosis, his intellect to absorb into me because he's a Dartmouth undergrad, Harvard Law. but I do not want any of his ideology rubbing off on me in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Well, he and I worked on the things we could work on together, right?
Right,
And
right.
and has always been pleasant to work with, and
he's a good person.
Yeah, good person.
And the same
yeah.
thing on the other side. They are good people up and down the Republican primary as well.
Well, I think sometimes people think it should be like the WWE or whatever, right? That you know, you got to come in, smack talk, and tell everybody, you know, what a piece of trash the other person is, and that's not necessarily the case. There's just real policy differences.
Right.
And when you know, Dan Bishop on the other side of the AG race, very much a policy difference. You know, I've known Dan as a local elected official, and then served with him in the House and Senate, and
served with him in the Senate as well. Worked with him when he was on City Council. I mean, he is a brilliant mind and one of the top litigators in the state. But when he takes a policy, I mean, the thoroughness, the intellect that's applied, and the due diligence and the pragmatism. I mean, he sees a lot of the rhetoric that we get because of issues and social issues, but let's look at the detailed content of the people, and that's going to be a great race. They actually predict the AG race in North Carolina will be the most expensive AG race in any state in the history. They're expecting maybe over $4 million a candidate.
Oh, wow.
$4 million for an AG race per person.
I believe that, though. I mean, it will be, because you got two personalities who are both capable of raising money, and it's very important who, you know, what happens in a state like ours. So there'll be a lot of national interest in that race as well.
And that's why it was funny, because me getting in at the time, I've got $40, and so I'm going to spend it wisely. Speaker Moore was over at my house in Holly Saturday visiting, and the speaker, when he was getting ready to leave, goes, oh, by the way, can I have a yard sign for my yard? And I said, let me get a piece of cardboard. I got a couple magic markers. I'll draw something up, and you can take it with you.
Right. Well, just a monumental task if you were going to get yard signs. I mean, you understand it with a governor's race or an AG's race, because there's a lot of money that comes into that just by default, but it's not coming into yours.
And all the congressional races,
right?
Because Dan Bishop on one hand, Jeff Jackson on another, both deciding after just one term not to run again. And then you've got those run every 2 years, and they are significantly important and expensive. They're important because the margin is so close between the majority in the House as far as number of people in which party, and it determines the agenda going forward for the rest of the nation. It has major implications. So not to vote is really unfortunate. Everybody needs to show up and get out and vote on whomever you're supporting.
Yeah, not voting has consequences.
Except for the state auditor race. If you're not supporting me, you probably just want to skip that.
You don't want to skip that one. Just keep going. Well, and I've talked about it on the show. I'm the first elected Republican member of the next General Assembly in the House. I didn't draw a primary opponent or a general election opponent, so I was very blessed and able to do that through whatever magical miracle that happened.
Well, that's not a magical miracle. I'm going to interject and interrupt you there for a second, because people need to know you are one of the highest ranking members in the House, one of the most respected, and people who lean into you for guidance. And the fact that you control the purse of the state, being the senior appropriations chair, you have a major, major job that's important to find balance and priorities, because everybody's coming to you with an ask. Everybody wants, fingers in the pocketbook. And it's not an unlimited resource, right?
That's right.
And it's finding balance across all the needs and prioritizing that. And that's a responsibility that's fallen on you, and you've done so well. People respect it, and don't need somebody to run against you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I like the fact that it's Jackson's 15, and we spend as much time as we can be with him, and we do so much because he is, he's into the same things that Dad's into, whether it's gaming or sports. He loves football. We got to travel to the games, UNC Charlotte games, over football games, and got to know the coach there, Coach Poggi, and we've got to do a lot of that fun stuff. So that's the downside if you don't get to be a part of that. So,
well, I've got 3 kids, all in their mid-30s, all grown, all married, all doing fine. But I tell you, it goes by in a blink. They tell you that, but it really does. So every minute you can spend with kids and family, it is precious.
It's amazing how fast it goes. And was looking at Facebook, they do the. Let's see, we're going to break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Keep it right here. All Things Saine with NC Representative Jason Saine will return after this short break on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We'll get ready for a busy weather day for our Tuesday. A lot of rain and a lot of wind on the way. Rain will be an all-day thing, really picking up some of it heavy or even torrential by the afternoon and evening, which could cause some flooding in spots. Winds will pick up, gusting upwards of 40 miles per hour or more by the afternoon and evening, too. That may cause a few downed trees or even power outages across the area. And while it's low, we just still need to keep an eye out for a couple of strong or even severe storms tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Rocky Lynn is playing at Kane Center for the Arts Saturday, January 20th. Having performed all over the world, written hit songs, and mentored artists, Rocky Lynn is making another stop here at home. Rocky Lynn, Saturday, January 20th, kanearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Quilters and Knitters Unite! The Quilting and Needle Art Extravaganza is happening this month at the Statesville Civic Center, Friday, January 26th and 27th. Admission is $5. Come explore the many beautiful fabrics, styles, and maybe even buy a new sewing machine. The Quilting and Needle Art Extravaganza at Statesville Civic Center on January 26th and 27th. Birkdale on Ice is still going on through January 28th. Time to lace up your skates and hit the ice. To make sure you can skate when you want, we recommend you making a reservation. For skate session info, including times and pricing, visit BirkdaleVillage.com. Mooresville Parks and Recreation presents The Hitmen of Country, playing at the Charles Mack Citizen Center Friday, January 19th. Love country music? The Hitmen of Country have toured and recorded with some of the country's greatest artists, like Keith Urban, Trace Adkins, Travis Tritt, and Jason Aldean. For more information, go to visitmooresville.com. That's visitmooresville.com. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
All Things Saine continues. Here's your host, NC Representative Jason Saine, on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
You can maybe call us. I don't know if you'll get a word in edgewise. we do take calls. It's 844-STUDIO-4. If you want to call in, we've got just a few minutes left. I am your host, State Representative Jason Saine. I've got former State Senator Jeff Tarte, who's running for State Auditor with me here in the studio. That song, by the way, we're talking about walk-up songs. That comes from a former LA of mine. She's still a dear friend. And congratulations to her. She just got a new job going out to Denver, Colorado. But she, and you knew Laura. She worked for me when you were there.
Sure.
And she caught me one day in the office listening to that song. And she goes, "Boss, I just don't think that's your song." And I said, "Yeah, it's got a good beat and you can dance to it."
There
so.
you go.
So,
rated a 9.
That's right. That's
Dick
right.
Clark.
I mean, you're probably like me. Your musical collection's probably as non-connected as anybody's because you enjoy a lot of different things.
If you pulled my iPod, or I guess that's agent, but you pulled my library, it's from Tupac to Hank Williams to, Toby Keith to, you name it. I got classic music. One of my favorite celloists is a lady who I've texted with. She's plays in the Paris Philharmonic.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, Julia Frazé. So it's across the board. I love music, so we're listening to it all. Beatles, it doesn't matter.
Yep, just depends on
Miles Davis.
on the day
whoever.
or the mood. I was listening
That's
to B.B.
right.
King on the ride over. So,
There you go.
Let the good times roll. So here we are. We're talking with Jeff Tarte. He's running for state auditor. You've built a body of work. You've got local government experience. Of course, we talked about your business experience.
Right.
You've got state government experience. How much do you think that really does play in when we mentioned it earlier, as you look across the board and what if voters are paying attention, and they should because it's their money, how important do you think that is, the experience that you've got that you bring to the table when they start thinking about state auditor and what that would mean to them personally?
Yeah, I think a couple things. First of all, for individuals, residents, and taxpayers, the fact that I know already where a bunch of money can be recovered because of fraud and waste, and which we talked about earlier in the show. Think about having $100 million within a year extra that we were spending and can prevent that recurring, that now can go to school funding, can go to a road project in your local community, that you don't have to raise taxes because we're actually spending the money where it's supposed to be spent. So I think it's huge to know how to navigate this. Now, I will tell you this, people can learn it because people do start somewhere, and I'm biased on this again, but I think for the people that are looking to serve in this role, everyone else, just based on experience, they could serve 4 years. They get elected, serve 4 years. Everyone will be at the same point I was as a senior consultant, which would be after my first promotion after joining the third largest accounting firm in the country. It took 4 years to get to that level of experience. I've got over 30. Right. So think about where we are in comparison in skill sets, knowledge. The fact none of them, I believe, have served at a state level office, served in the state legislature. Understanding that process, what you do and how the budget's built. If you've not been on the inside of watching how the sausage is made, it's also knowing how to make the sausage and how to get things done within the legislature. And it's like anything else. Those are relationships, relationships that I already have across a number of the agencies and state departments, counties, and relationships. That all matters in getting stuff done and helping people solve problems. We had a thing, I did state and local government senior leadership executive ed program at Harvard one summer. And one of the questions that our professors asked was, you had to be able to answer question 0 about your organization or about yourself. And question 0 is, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Right? People ask all the time. And ironically, what I've done my entire career serving in elected office or in business was I help other people solve problems. And that's really what the state auditor's role is solving the problem and figuring out, are the financials accurate? Are they being spent in the right place? Are they compliant with the laws and ordinances or regulations? State auditor has been brought into municipalities to determine, are open meeting laws being violated? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really stuff you wouldn't think of, but that impacts your day-to-day life. Are your elected officials, whether it's at a local level or state level, performing the duties as they're supposed to be? That's an amazing responsibility, and
it's a much bigger responsibility than a 141 character tweet on Twitter or X or whatever we call it. It's sometimes things get broken down into some really almost hilarity, except for the fact that it impacts real people's lives. They try to make it almost as if it's a joke. This stuff is serious. I mean, it is serious work. Doesn't mean you can't have fun while you're doing it. And to the extent that we're talking about experience matters, it's fun to watch new people come to the legislature, and people come from all walks of life, and it's not a criticism. They just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so there's a learning curve for sure. You start from day one without having to. I mean, there's still new things you will learn, but far ahead above most, just because you've just lived it, you've breathed it, you understand it from all sides of the coin. When you look at your experience, this is why when you announced, I sent you a text, said, hey, I'm glad you're running, because I know from our work together what you bring to the table. It shouldn't be for the amateur. Anybody can run.
Right.
Anybody
Absolutely.
Can run. But if I feel like voters, we were talking earlier about, when they send me, I've got a body of work and experience and have, gone through those things already, and have the knowledge that no one has until they experience it, and really puts you at a greater advantage to be more effective, which is what people are hiring you to do, is to go do the job of auditor.
And it's a fascinating aspect, because I'll tell you, my biggest fear is what I know will fit in the size of a tablespoon, and that's what I think the others running, and I love the people to death. They're good people. know the amount of fentanyl that will kill you, right?
Right.
Versus my tablespoon, but it's only a tablespoon, and yet there's the whole universe of stuff to know. There is so much to know you can't know.
Yeah.
So use the experience, know when to tap into others, when to use other resources as you go forward. But it's also having fun. I mean, when we chaired committees, it was as much getting the work done, but it's also why not entertain a little bit, right?
Why not have fun at it? If you're not, you're not living right. If you're not,
and it's been a fun experience. I mean, doing the consulting, doing the elected. I mean, I had a constituent ask. They wanted to know more of my background. Could you point me in any articles or things? 1 or 2 articles, if I've ever been quoted. I've been in the Wall Street Journal. I've been in Politico. I've been in the Hill. I've been in the in the News and Observer, in the Charlotte Observer, in local papers. I've been on NPR. I've been on CBS, ABC. We've done because of the positions we've been in and listening to our work and explaining things. So and it's good, bad, and ugly. Everybody won't agree with everything and won't like some of the things. And I know I've done stupid things and will do stupid things, but I hope it's a small number of stupid things compared to the good things that you do, right?
Yeah. Well, no, so it's exactly what I tell my son. Look, it's not that you're not going to do dumb things. We all do dumb things. We say dumb things. We act without knowledge, or we act impulsively sometimes. We're human beings. But it's what you learn from that experience and how to move forward on that.
And my general philosophy is if you're not making mistakes and failing, you're not moving forward and learning. The key is when you do something stupid, don't do it again. Learn from it and don't repeat the same mistake.
And there are those that never learn, right? And we all in society have to suffer through those folks. But moving forward, I'm excited that you're running, and I wanted to make sure that people understood you as a person too, because we look at politicians and we only see the 30-second sound bites, or they only read the 1 article or the 2 articles or what somebody else said about you. But you're a husband, a dad. Are you granddad yet?
I have 1 grandson right now, so totally involved. Played tennis and been involved in the local boards of school, coached an athletic director, parks director. I mean, there's a lot of things we do. Church. I go to church 45 weeks a year because it's a part of my life. My faith is strong. My wife's lay leader of a 3,000 member church. I mean, we're actively engaged. Lots of stuff you get involved in.
Yeah.
Just because you're in the community. The chamber is a big thing for me right now.
Sure.
That's a big role, big responsibility. It does great things. But you look at Lake Norman as a region, you look at the state of North Carolina, we live in one of the greatest places on the planet. I take pride in, I think we all take pride in the fact that we've, in a 15, 16-year period of time, since going into the Senate to where we are today, we have reversed where we are now the top state for businesses to come, flourish, grow. That's why Apple comes here. That's why, Honda is being here, the corporate. But at the same time, 85% of the employment base is small businesses, and that's where it's at. I was a Pell Grant kid, for God's sake.
Right.
I grew up, my mom's side of the family was generational poverty. Only way I got ahead was college and getting to go to school and thriving coming out of that environment. And we need to provide that same environment for everybody. So that side of the house, social economic background, it's important to me that we take care of everybody that wants to try to succeed. They have the opportunity to do that.
Yep. Well, you're absolutely right. That's what drives you. It's what drives me and others that I think are willing to serve. And so I applaud you for that. I would be remiss if we let you get out this show and not promote your website. The website is
JeffTarte.com, JEFFTARTE.com. And it's got all my background. And go look at everybody else's. I really think it's good to be informed. And spend a little time. And even on the other races, it's hard because there's a lot of names and a lot of people that want to serve this great state.
You can go down the Google rabbit hole each night if you want to, but voters should. They should be informed before they go to the polls.
And go on social media, ask me questions. I'll try to respond back to you.
That's
if
right.
I can.
Well, great having you on.
Thanks, Jason.
Jeff Tarte, running for state auditor. We'll have you back again. Good luck. It's a sprint, and we'll see what happens in March.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.